Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall Podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
It's Monday, the 22nd day of April. Thanks a lot for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. I hope you had a great weekend. If you, for some reason, missed it or you'd like to hear it, the conversation just before this podcast today. So if you're listening to this one and you missed the one that came out just before it this morning on this 22nd day of April, that's my conversation with Donald Trump. That aired this morning. We brought it to you first thing, and so we put it out on podcast first thing today. So today's show, this podcast, is a follow-up to that conversation to a degree. We kind of go into more detail, very specifically on one portion of the conversation, and that's on Biden and his Title IX gutting on Friday. A horrible story, quite frankly, coming out of suburban Philadelphia in the North Penn School District, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. This is the story of a school girl, 13 years old, in a middle school that is violently assaulted, bashed in the head by what was reported as another girl. And you were led to believe it was some kind of skirmish between two girls. The truth of the matter, you guessed the rest of it. It was actually a boy. So in this show today, we're going to get into the details of it. Why was there such a massive cover-up? This is not just exclusive to something like suburban Philadelphia either. Folks, if you're listening to this, I promise you, if you live in a suburban school district, this is or has or will certainly be coming to a school near you soon, and it's something everyone must consider. You know that it is a passion of my wife's and mine that people rescue their children from this madness as fast as you can, and you're going to hear from two parents today. Well, I should say you're going to hear from one parent and then another one who doesn't even happen to have children at all. I came to learn later. Two really brave parents. Alyssa Santiago is one woman who testified before her school board last week, and she's one of these parents that's never been involved in school district politics before until her daughter felt threatened by this biological male. Another gentleman called Yanni Lambros. This conversation is it's inspiring. And if you're wondering to yourself, where are the men? Well, you'll hear from one today. It's a really inspiring guy. And we need people like this in every corner of every school district, in every state, in every county, in every community across the country. This is not going away. And so we're going to stare it in the face this day on this podcast. And also a conversation that Bill Maher had on his show Friday. Now, you know, I realized what Bill Maher said just last week about abortion and that he supports it and he thinks we need less kids and he's fine with it being murder. I always want to be clear that I'm not holding Bill Maher out as some sort of paragon of virtue, but when Bill Maher makes great comments and commentary that I think is useful to our point, we use it and we highlight it. And I would argue that Bill Maher gave probably the most important monologue of his professional life when talking about attacking our kids and sexualizing our kids in schools. So you'll hear some of that today and these important conversations. But again, that Donald Trump interview and conversation, if you didn't hear it, it's the podcast right before this one as a standalone today. Meanwhile, John Ruhlman wants to help you with health insurance costs. Are you spending way too much money on health insurance premiums? Are you buying it out of pocket on your own? Would you give John a couple of minutes and his team at usmedicalplan.com or call 877-410-4321, 877-410-4321. John and his team work with 80 different private health insurers, so they know exactly where to go to find the very best coverage for you that is the most inexpensive as it can possibly be. Now, you give them just a couple of minutes and say, here's the coverage I have, and let them just cross-reference some things. Let them find out, does it cover everything you think it does? Is it absolutely the best price it can be? Sometimes the answer is yes. You may be pleasantly surprised, and he says, hey, this is pretty good stuff. I can't beat it. But most of the time, he can find you insurance that's 30 to 60% less, and most of the time, he discovers that, in fact, that insurance you have doesn't really cover you the way you think it might if you, God forbid, need it in an emergency. Young people, senior citizens, small business owners, if you're just providing insurance for your family, or you yourself, you've got to reach out. It takes just a couple of minutes, and it could save you big-time money at a time we don't have a lot of money to just throw around, right? 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. A story today that has really become a bit of a flashpoint, and I don't know how much of it you've seen and how much of it you know, out of the Pembroke School District. The Pembroke Middle School, I should say, specifically, in the North Penn School District, where you might have heard heading into the weekend that a 13-year-old girl was assaulted, bashed in the head by a classmate with one of these Stanley cups. And if you don't know what that is, those are the thermoses that all the girls are now buying like crazy. I guess some boys too. I don't know. But yeah, the Stanley thermos people, Eddie and I have talked about this before, the Stanley thermos people that have made these new collectible, multicolored cups with handles. Girls love them. I don't know about boys, but I know girls love them. Wives love them. Suburban wine moms and girls love these things. Heavy duty. And there was a student, a girl, assaulted, hit in the head at Pembroke Middle School out there in North Wales. And apparently it was a pretty grisly thing. A lot of blood. Local media covered it. And then we find out Friday, heading into the weekend. Just as the show was kind of wrapping up on Friday and heading into the weekend fast, Eddie, specifically we find out that this girl that was assaulted, you say, who assaulted her? Well, they kept reporting it as another student assault, and they reported a girl-on-girl thing. One girl hit another girl with the... We never really got the specifics until later, that the person that assaulted this 13-year-old girl was not, in fact, another girl. It was, in fact, a boy pretending to be a girl, Fast Eddie.
Chris, it's pretty amazing. I skimmed every single news story we had on Friday, every single local outlet, and none that was not reported but once, period.
From the New York Post, because it takes the New York Post to finally write the truth about it, a brave middle school student has described her horror after watching a 13-year-old girl repeatedly bash a classmate in the head with a metal Stanley cup in an unprovoked attack, leaving blood everywhere. I just hear all this screaming and everybody running, and all of a sudden you hear these terrible loud bangs of the Stanley cup hitting this girl's head, recounted the girl at the school board meeting. We had to sit there and watch them clean blood off the floor and the tables. We had to watch them take her out with blood running down her face. I'll never forget it. Parents of the students at Pembroke Middle School in North Wales went hard at administrators in an open meeting for failing to heed warnings about the attacker who allegedly had a hit list of students she planned to target. A hit list of students she planned to target. Seventh graders told their guidance counselor they heard something's going to happen at lunch, but school officials failed to act, allowing the violent attack to unfold in front of students in the cafeteria. When you get a phone call from your child crying, saying, "Mom, help, there's blood everywhere," she recalled through tears. Police in the community said the unprovoked sudden violent attack unfolded around 1 o'clock on Wednesday of last week, when the aggressor came up behind the 12-year-old classmate, immediately began hitting her in the head with the cup. Emily, a student who witnessed it, I just shared with you, said she'd never forget it. Parents of the children in the district described the moment their child called and texted them after witnessing it. The fear in these kids' voices, told one parent. This had to be a brutal attack because so many kids were screaming and crying. The mother, Alyssa Santiago, of one of the parents, said she voiced concerns to school officials after the student threatened her daughter as well. If it were taken serious by multiple complaints, that little girl would have been in school today, and my daughter is traumatized. Parents said the alleged attacker was a new student who started just Monday, 2 days before. So this was a week ago today. This student started at North Wales School District. In the North Penn District. She started at this middle school just Monday. The attack's on Wednesday. multiple parents reached out about this child making threats. Stephen Ross said his son went to the student's previous school where she was expelled after alleged violent incidents. Now, even the New York Post continues to refer to the student as she. In a letter to parents, Superintendent Todd Bauer denied that the student was transferred to Pembroke after being expelled for violent behavior at another school. This should not have happened, period. As an educator, your superintendent, and a father, I'm appalled at what happened. We're currently pursuing the details leading up to this incident and why. Now, why am I reading all this to you? Because for the first time, the details are coming to light that, in fact, this was a boy. This was not a girl. And there's not a single media account that will actually say the words, this is a biological male pretending to be a girl. Horrifying. And the testimony, the open testimony at the end of the week was, as you can imagine, highly charged and very emotional. Now, on the show today, we have two individuals, Fast Eddie, right? We have the mom that I just mentioned about, Alyssa Santiago. We also have a guy who has gone viral on libs of TikTok, a guy called Yanni Lambros. He has kids in the district, not that specific school. So again, we're talking about Pembroke Middle School in the North Penn School District. And this guy gives testimony. Was this Friday?
So the event happened Wednesday. The school board meeting was Thursday.
Okay, so this was from Thursday, not Friday.
Yeah, late Thursday evening was the school board meeting.
Okay, so here is some, let's start with this. This is a righteously indignant Yanni Lambros, who's going to be on the show here just after 7 o'clock, letting it rip. Again, this is not a guy who has kids in this particular school, but he has kids in the district, and the righteous anger here at the school board meeting. Take a listen.
At the end of the day, whether this child who was the attacker has issues or not, a lot of it comes from your policy, your leadership, and what you do or do not accept. I remember at one point you were very focused on everyone has to wear a mask, but you let all these major things go. You let sexual assaults go, you let violence go. And another thing, this was a teenage boy who beat on a little girl, all right? Call it what it is, I don't care. Don't look at me like that, Mr. Fusco, you're a father. What if that was your daughter? What if that was your daughter? And I'm sorry, I didn't want to be here. I'm here because people reach out to me. I'm here because apparently too many people are afraid to just say that. Men and women are different, all right? Whatever you want to do as an adult, God bless you, that's fine. You have that right. But let kids be kids. Let them make that decision later in life when it's appropriate. All right? Men and women are not the same. Our hormones are not the same. Our strength is not the same. Our aggression is not the same. How come none of the articles said that it was a boy attacking a girl? How come half the people here kept switching between he and she? And again, I have nothing against any type of community, but what's right is right and what's fair is fair, and that's not cool. And if this kid was protected simply because they were trans and not because of any other reason, that's not cool. They have a violent past.
So that's just one dad who doesn't even have kids in this school, who isn't even really privy to the specifics of the kids in the attack and the righteous anger there. We're going to talk with that gentleman coming up here in about a half hour. Fast Eddie went right to work and got two of these parents. Again, Alyssa Santiago, who you heard me read about in that story from the New York Post, and then that gentleman who you just heard there in open testimony Thursday night at the North Penn School District Board meeting. Again, we're talking about Pembroke Middle School out there in North Wales, and the girl lived. I mean, the good news is the girl survived a vicious and bloody attack and hits to the head. But the most amazing thing is we find that this attacker is is a boy, a biological boy pretending to be a girl. Not a single media outlet referred to this person as a boy, and had only been at this school for 2 days prior to the attack. And it had been, in just the 2 days this biological boy had been at this school, had already apparently made it very well known to many of the students he planned to start attacking other students. They knew. Interesting that on this same day, this same week, the Biden administration, as we head into the weekend, and the Department of Education unveiled a sweeping set of rules on Friday that effectively erased protections for sex-based spaces, demanding Title IX prohibition against sex discrimination to include gender identity. This is a term that has never been mentioned in the original law. A majority of Americans agree males who claim to identify otherwise should not be allowed to infiltrate girls' and women's sports teams. As now some 25 states have laws or regulations aimed at keeping boys and men out of female-only spaces and off the field. Reading this from the Federalist. Yet come August 1st, the Democrat regime's radical redefinition of sex-based discrimination poses a threat to sex-based protections and welcomes males into female spaces, including athletic competitions, locker rooms, and sex-specific clubs, like sororities, despite state laws. The rules claim, quote, the final regulations will help to ensure that all students receive appropriate support when they experience sex discrimination and that recipients' procedures for investigating and resolving complaints of sex discrimination are fair to all involved. Regulations do even more damage, however, such as by undoing Trump-era processes and safeguards for those accused of sexual misconduct, which could include merely using accurate pronouns. They also encroach on parents' rights and threaten academic free speech by incentivizing schools to censor students and teachers with traditional views on sex and marriage so they don't lose federal funding. The Biden administration openly admits it relied on the Supreme Court's Bostock versus Clayton County decision to inform its rulemaking. In that case, John Roberts and Neil Gorsuch joined their Democrat colleagues to expand their prohibition against employment discrimination based on sex to include sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, did you hear that? The Biden administration used something that the Supreme Court ruled on related to employment, and they used it to apply to students. Male and female students in competition and in locker rooms and bathrooms at schools. Because of course he did. Of course the Biden administration did. In response to Biden's Department of Ed ignoring some 240,000 comments, a coalition of organizations, including the Independent Women's Forum, Independent Women's Law Center, suing the administration. In a press release, Title IX was designed to give women equal opportunities in academic settings, they write. It forbids discrimination on the basis of sex, which it affirms throughout the statute is binary and biological. This unlawful regulation reimagines Title IX to permit the invasion of women's spaces and the reduction of women's rights in the name of elevating protections for gender identity, which is contrary to the text and purpose of Title IX. So this is where we are. On the very same week, a 13-year-old girl is assaulted, bashed in the head violently by a biological boy pretending to be a girl. On the very same week, the Biden administration says there is no such thing as gender. There is no such thing as spaces for genders specific to men and women. And the righteous anger of these parents you can hear. And you will hear it again live today. Alyssa Santiago and Yanni Lambros, two concerned parents in the North Penn School District, will join us today. Good work by Fast Eddie getting them here. I still, at this hour, as we scan, I don't see any stories that suggest that this was a girl attacked by a biological boy, Fast Eddie, not even in this New York Post story.
Chris, something is very strange about all this. I had the school board meeting. It was like an hour and a half or something. I had a lot of that running while I was working, doing my work here in studio Friday. And it seems that at this school board meeting is the only place that this has been reported that this was a boy.
Now, how do you read that? Why do you suppose that is? Just woke Philadelphia-based media doing their compliant best to avoid telling the truth? Pretending that gender doesn't matter?
So I'm not as familiar with the full makeup of the North Penn School District school board, but I do know that this was one of the school districts that had like a clean sweep of progressive candidates that won the school board races. So this is the same school district that last year hired the drag queen who just passed like one community college course. I don't know if you remember that story.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
So they did that in the dark of night. This is a board shrouded in secrecy with the funding, a lot of the money that they get, like where's it going? Who are they awarding contracts to? So I think that has something to do with it. And I'm guessing one of the board members has higher political aspirations, and media's doing him a favor.
Then, of course, I guess you saw that Columbia is having virtual classes today. Jews are literally so frightened for their safety after protests over the weekend. They are having virtual-only classes at Columbia because they are that terrified. Jews are actually going to be the victims of violent crime from these angry protesters on campus over the last few days. This is what's passing now as academe. This is what's going on in the halls and on the campuses of our educational institutions, both public school district and fancy Columbia-like schools. This is the state of education in 2024 in the United States. Anti-Semitism and gender confusion, boys hiding out as girls and assaulting other girls. It's Biden's America. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years now. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, it's really a thrill for me to have both the dentists, my daughter and Dr. Jared Geddes. One of the things that I love about them both is when they don't have a patient in their chair, they're in my room watching what I do and trying to learn from me. And we hear enough about the new generation and they think they know everything and they don't want to work. And I've got two dentists who are really, really want to learn and really, really willing to work hard. And I enjoy learning from them. They brought some new skills and some new technologies to our office that will be great benefits to our patients. And so, if anything, I think that having them both there is going to expand and lengthen my career as opposed to shorten my career.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Bill Maher gave a monologue this week that I would argue this also happened Friday. I mean, while the Biden administration's Title IX reforms came down on Friday, and this news came to light to us here on Friday, Bill Maher gave a monologue which was kind of tangentially related to all of this at the same time. It wasn't exactly this, but it's a neighbor. It's a cousin to this. And he does kind of brush upon this. It's a long monologue. I mean, it's one of those that I almost would love to play for you in its entirety. I don't know that we have the time to do it. But I don't know. I guess maybe we should jump into the second part because this is about the sexualization, the perversion, the gender confusion of kids broadly. And this is almost a 10-minute long monologue in its entirety. And the jumping off point is the new, I guess it's a Netflix documentary or something on the dark side of kids' TV. And he says he's just watched it and it's deeply disturbing. And he talks about all the things now that are quite obvious about all the grooming that went on all the different kids' network programming, Disney, Nickelodeon, on and on and on and on and on. And he kind of went down the list. He defended DeSantis at one point, which kind of amazing. This is the second time he's defended DeSantis, COVID first, and then he said, hey, and by the way, it turned out DeSantis wasn't wrong. But we're tribal now. So we overlook, and these are his words, we overlook child effing if the guy from the wrong party calls it out. Whoa. So let's move into the second half of this, Fast Eddie, because I think he does kind of brush on what we're talking about here. this getting at our kids, confusing our kids, particularly when they're young. This is the second half of Bill Maher's monologue on Friday.
And not just Hollywood. There are Instagram moms these days who are practically only fansing their itty-bitty beauty queen daughters by having them wear skimpy bikinis and eat bananas to build social media stardom. They're called sharenters, a hybrid of sharing and parent. I call them pimps, a hybrid of pimp and And people who believe in social justice have agreed this is wrong and this is bad, and exposing kids to an adult world of lurid costumes and garish makeup borders on abuse. Now, hurry up and get in the car. We're late for Drag Queen Story Hour. Not that there's anything wrong with being a drag queen, but maybe it's time to admit that sometimes Drag Queen Story Hour is more for the queen than the kids. Sure, kids love a clown, but does the clown have to have tits? And when I see a 5-year-old tipping at a bar under a sign that says it's not going to lick itself, do I have to pretend that's cool in order to keep my liberal ID card? Sorry, I can't do that. If you want kids to be more tolerant, why not have handicapped people read them stories? Kids are more likely to encounter disabled people than drag queens in life. Geez, can't we just go back to the good old days when kids were read simple stories with simple morals like, if you're a lonely single man, just make a boy out of wood. I've said it before, wokeness is not an extension of liberalism anymore. It's more often taking something so far that it becomes the opposite. Teaching kids not to hate or judge those who are different, great. Proud we got there, all for that. But at a certain point, inclusion becomes promotion. And contrary to current progressive dogma, children aren't miniature adults wise beyond their years, they're morons. They're gullible morons who'll believe anything and just want to please grown-ups. And they don't have any frame of reference, so they normalize whatever's happening. That's why endlessly talking about gender to 6-year-olds isn't just inappropriate. It's what the law would call entrapment, which means enticing people into doing something they wouldn't ordinarily do. For example, after 9/11, there were several cases of overzealous federal agents leading sad losers into terrorist plots, like the undercover FBI agent who got 7 out-of-work dudes in Liberty City, Florida, to sign on to a plot to bomb the Sears Tower in Chicago. Oh, please, these guys didn't even have a gun. But when someone said, wouldn't it be cool if we taught the man a lesson and blew something up? They said, yeah, that would be kind of cool. Entrapment, suggesting someone into something they wouldn't otherwise do. And if you think that some of that isn't going on with gender in schools, you're not watching enough TikTok videos.
I pledge allegiance to the queers.
I'm not allowed to be out as trans non-binary at school. My response to this is to be as obnoxiously queer as possible.
There's a certain kind of activist these days who wants to take heterosexuality, old school, old-fashioned, boring, minding its own business heterosexuality, and lump it in with patriarchy and sexism and racism and tell kids, wouldn't it be cool if you were anything but that? It also seems to be the theme of kind of a lot of kids' books these days. I never used the phrase gay agenda because I thought it was mostly nonsense, and it is, mostly. But a director for Disney television animation did say after she was hired,
the showrunners were super welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda. I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness. No one would stop me and no one was trying to stop me.
Look, I'm all for adding queerness wherever. I put some in my drink before I came out here tonight. But maybe we should think about giving kids a break from our culture wars for a minute, or at least until the election is over.
Yeah, so, and a lot of, people got mad because he tucked that until the election's over into the end there. And, I wished he hadn't done it, but that's vintage Dennis Miller stuff, actually. If you remember Dennis Miller's show from years ago on HBO, this is the kind of stuff Dennis Miller used to deliver. And Bill Maher is sounding more like him these days. At least until the election's over, he's tucking in there as a sort of a ha-ha on the way out the door. And I know a lot of us don't like Bill Maher's politics. I don't either. Remember the rule here. It is not about using Bill Maher as now the new poster boy for conservatism. It is about using Bill Maher in this moment, making a very, very powerful and important argument that is important and needs to be advanced, and he's advancing it better than most conservatives are, quite frankly. And yes, I know, just last week we were talking about him being very blunt and open about abortion being murder, and he's just fine with that. So again, I'm not under any illusion that Bill Maher is some kind of conservative or that he shares any of our social mores or anything else. But if we can't all agree that you don't sexualize kids, and that's what he's saying here, there's a certain kind of activist these days who wants to take heterosexuality, old school, old-fashioned, boring, minding its own business heterosexuality, and lump it in with the patriarchy and sexism and racism and tell kids, wouldn't it be cool if you were anything but that? That's powerful, and it's true. I loved this phrase, and I would put this on a shirt. This is a bumper sticker slogan that Bill Maher has just crafted. Inclusion becomes promotion. The word inclusion, inclusivity, to be inclusive, inclusion, it has become promotion. Drag Queen Story Hour is more for the queens than for the kids. He interestingly brought up entrapment, which I found kind of fascinating. He talked about 9/11. I would add, the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. He's right. That's a side issue. Kind of interesting. He brings up federal officials entrapping people, encouraging them to do things they wouldn't ordinarily do. Well, he's saying the same thing is happening with our kids. So yes, when you get a hold of middle school kids and you convince them that they're not the gender they were born, if they're feeling a little off about their bodies or whatever, they become mental cases. And they take Stanley Cups and they bludgeon fellow students with them in schools. And we have school boards and school districts, like the North Penn School District, that, are so committed to inclusion that it's become promotion. That tell our kids, wouldn't it be cool if you were anything but boring, old-fashioned, heterosexual, and the gender you were born? So it seems to me that the North Penn School District is engaged in exactly what Bill Maher was just monologuing about on Friday. On the same day the Biden administration has just tried to codify in Title IX this very thing. It is a mixed-up time. Not mixed up. It's a perverted time. On purpose. I'm so proud to be affiliated with GulagAmerica.com. They've been great friends. They are founding harumphers, and they have funny, fantastic products just in time for mom. Apparel that you'd love to give mom as a gift, or you yourself, if you're a mom, give yourself the gift. Because Mother's Day is right around the corner. Why shouldn't you go shopping? Check out GulagAmerica.com and go to their For the Ladies collection. They've got some hilarious stuff there, like this shirt that says, "My pronouns are her, she, and chocolate." My wife would love that one. Another one that simply provides the definition of a woman, noun, adult female human being, period. But that, which is particularly helpful for someone like, the newest Supreme Court justice. And don't forget their pre-Brandon pricing. This is pre-inflation and pre-Husk pricing all year long. Just $24 for any of their standard T-shirts. Just $24, and you'll get an additional 10% off that, your entire order, when you use my promo code Chris10. They want to know you listen. And I would love for you to tell them that you support them and you listen to the show by going to GulagAmerica.com, buy one of their great shirts, and when you check out, use Chris10 as your promo code. You'll get another 10% off the already really affordable price. Gulag America, where they always like to remind you it is not their wish, it's their warning. We came across this story, and thanks to Eddie doing some hard work, and we were watching the school board meeting last week in the North Penn School District. This incident at Pembroke Middle School, really strange because you can't find any reporting on it, and the reporting that you do have on it makes it sound like it's just a random attack. One 13-year-old girl attacked by another girl in a middle school. Very bloody, very violent, very aggressive. One girl, it's reported, hits another girl with a Stanley Cup thermos. These heavy, hard thermoses. And if you read this to the extent that you heard it, and all local media in Philadelphia is reporting it as one girl assaults another girl. Well, we come to find out later that this was not, in fact, what it was at all. That, in fact, this was an assault of a 13-year-old girl by a biological male pretending to be a girl. And as I understand it and as I read it, this is a biological male that transferred to Pembroke Middle School just 2 days prior to assaulting this girl, this female student. Now, the story that we read in the New York Post does not reference this biological male as biological male attacking this girl, but it does quote some other parents. One of the parents in the story, Alyssa Santiago, is quoted as saying, she voiced concerns to school officials about the student after the student threatened her daughter as well. She said, quote, "If it were taken serious by multiple complaints, that little girl would have been in school today, and my daughter is traumatized." We were grateful. Fast Eddie reached out and got a hold of Alyssa Santiago today. She's the parent of a girl at Pembroke Middle School in the North Penn School District. The school board meeting that happened Thursday got pretty explosive. Yanni Lambros spoke there. We're going to speak with him in just a minute. He doesn't even have kids in the district or in that school, but he was livid, and we played that a little earlier. We'll speak with him in a minute. But first, Miss Santiago, we're grateful for your time this morning. Sorry it's under these conditions. Hello.
Good morning.
I guess I want to first ask you about your school, because maybe it's helpful for all of us to just understand the community in which you live and your kind of just general point of view about the school your daughter attends, Pembroke Middle School. Is this something, I don't know, if you want to call it the politics of this, that you've been aware of for a while, or is this fairly new to you?
So as far as the bullying goes, it's everywhere. I'm not going to point out that just North Penn is like this. It's everywhere. The past, probably since COVID, I would say it's getting a little bit more out of hand. And nothing's ever being done about it. Nothing. It doesn't matter how many times you report it. It doesn't matter how many times your kids voice it. They say they have a zero tolerance for bullying, but really, that's just what they say. There's nothing that's ever done. This child was transferred from different school to different school throughout the district just to place it on someone else's problem. That's what this was. And I'm not going to let it get swept under the rug like every other scandal in North Penn.
Your daughter is also 13, 12 or 13, is that right?
Yeah, she's 13.
Mm-hmm. And so this student, this biological male, can you confirm, first of all, that is in fact what we're dealing with, and why you think it is? We do not know this unless we really dug and listened in to the school board meeting itself. No media is reporting that as anything other than two girls had a fight.
Correct. Yes, it is a biological male. I have multiple parents that reached out to me. I have yearbook photos of this child before transitioning. Yes, it is a biological male. I do not know why they are not reporting that. Probably because we have new protection laws for transgenders, which I don't know. We can get into that another time. But yes, this is a biological boy.
And as I read this and understand it, this is a student that was transferred to this school just 2 days prior to this attack?
2 days, yes. His first day was on Monday. By Monday afternoon, my daughter was coming home with stories already.
And as I understand it, and tell me if I'm wrong, this student immediately hits the ground on Monday upon being transferred into Pembroke Middle School, and immediately starts making it known that he, that we're supposed to pretend is a she, he is going to run around and start attacking certain kids. Had a hit list of sorts.
Correct.
Yeah. and made this public. I mean, this was not something hidden. The other kids knew, obviously. Your daughter came home and said so.
Right, correct. I would say by Tuesday lunchtime, everybody in that school knew that my daughter was going to be curb stomped or made to bite the curb or attacked. I don't think the word attacked was used. Jumped.
How is the student letting other students like your daughter know? How is this communicated?
It's just hallway talk. This child went up to my daughter's friends in the bathroom and told them that this is what was going to happen to her. I'm really not sure if anything was really on social media about it. Pretty much all verbal. That's really why I don't have too much to go off of anything physical.
Monday, this student transfers into the school. The threats start immediately, or when do you notify school officials that this is being said?
As soon as my daughter came home on Monday, she was telling me. I called the school Tuesday morning, spoke with the guidance counselor. Before I even mentioned this child's name, the guidance counselor said, "You don't even have to say anything else. I already know who you're talking about." So for a new student to be dropped off on our door on Monday and for the guidance counselor to already know who I'm speaking about also is a red flag. There's over 1,000 kids in that school. How do you know exactly who I'm speaking about?
Can you physically describe this student in terms of size? Is this because we know this to be a biological male now, is this a much larger student than the girl that was involved?
No, she's thin. Nobody knew that he was a boy. Okay. When my daughter showed me a picture, I was like, oh my God, okay. And then, rumors circulated about this being a boy, and me being the mother I am, I did some digging and found out that yes, the rumors are correct. It is a boy. And nobody knew this. So if they try and say, oh, this child was bullied for being trans, that's not it. Because nobody knew who this kid was. Nobody.
So I'll play devil's advocate for a minute, because I can imagine there are going to be some that would say, or maybe already have said, okay, what does this person being a biological male have to do? This was violent. This was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. But what's this got to do with this person being a biological male? If somebody were to ask you that, what would you say?
In my opinion, I don't think it's the biggest issue, but it's definitely an issue. One, because I believe that's why this child is being protected. If my husband were to hit me, he would be in jail that very day, and it would be reported as a male hitting a female. Why is that not being reported? Why? Yeah. If it were two girls, it would be reported as two girls got into a fight. If it were two boys, it would be reported two boys got into a fight. I just don't understand why that is left out.
The story that I have says that the superintendent sent a letter out to parents and denied strongly that this student was transferred after being expelled from another school. Can you speak to that?
Yes. So I believe the rumor that he was trying to clarify is that this child was expelled. Maybe he wasn't expelled, but there are 34 write-ups of this child just from Penfield Middle School. Weapons being brought to school, drugs being brought to school.
That's it. I'm sorry, Penfield.
Threat.
This was at Penfield Middle School prior to Pembroke.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, Penfield.
Okay.
Maybe he wasn't expelled. That's not the point. The point is the entire school board, my daughter's principal, and guidance counselors made it out to seem nobody knew of this child's violent history.
So
if I can find out, then the school can find out.
Yeah, and to clarify for those of us not in the district, in the North Penn School District, Penfield is another school in the North Penn School District, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, that's another middle school.
So this student left the middle school of Penfield where there was clearly a record and has been transferred into Pembroke, where this attack occurred. And there is a record of this student in Penfield, a pretty aggressive one.
Correct.
All right, so now we get to the school board meeting, and we're going to speak with Mr. Lambros in a little bit. Were you at this school board meeting last week?
I was. Yes, I was. I spoke, my husband and I.
Can you describe it?
It was a very eerie feeling walking in there. I didn't even know I was going to speak, actually. And when I saw my daughter's friend get up, I said to myself, like, if she can do this, I can do this. Everybody was outraged. Everybody was outraged. I spoke, kind of called Todd out because we want answers.
That's the superintendent?
We want answers, and yes, and we weren't getting them. Mother after father went up there asking the same questions, and that board just sat there and stared. Now, maybe they can't comment due to, legal issues, fine. But we just wanted answers.
How do you describe the folks that make up the school board and your superintendent for that matter? Are they, have you been unhappy with them heretofore? Are they good people? Are they compassionate people? How do you describe these people?
I will be honest, this is my first school board meeting I've ever attended. So I wasn't aware of any of them who were on it.
Have you heard others comment on them one way or the other? Their effectiveness or non-effectiveness? Or
Yes, I've heard others comment. I can't really say too much about it because, like I said, it's just hearsay. But yes, it was not handled correctly. And I don't need to even know that just by having interactions with the school board, because I had interactions with the principal and he did nothing.
Is it important, Alyssa Santiago, joining us this morning, by the way, parent of a girl at Pembroke Middle School, and on this hit list of this student, your daughter was one that this student had targeted to attack as well, and thankfully that didn't happen. But you go to this school board meeting and you don't get a lot of response, just blank stares. Do you get the impression that the blank stares come from what? A political reaction, a lack of ability to answer because of legalities, or, I mean, what do you expect to hear from these people? A little bit of compassion, I would guess, at least?
Compassion, at least. I'm sorry, an apology. The email that was sent out to us parents was horrific, calling it a fight and to talk to our children about consequences of fighting. This was not a fight. This is a brutal attack against another little girl by a boy. This is not a fight. And it was not random. And it could have been avoided. It could have been avoided. Like I said, I called twice. And they ensured that the safety of my child was fine. And that the student I mentioned was talked to. And if I had any other questions, feel free to email. I didn't even get a phone call. I got an email, a generic email.
I don't want to be too political here, but I'll just ask you generally. Do the politics of the day, when we're talking about biological males becoming female, just Friday, I don't know how much you followed this, Title IX rules have been rewritten by the Biden administration that says now biological males have every right to be in the locker rooms and competing on sports teams with biological girls. We're clearly going in this direction, and I guess I would just ask you, as a mother of a middle school girl, kind of your overall reaction to where we're headed culturally.
I think we're doomed. If I ever see a male in the girls' bathroom with my daughter in there, it's not going to be pretty. We'll just leave that at that. There is no reason why any boy should be in any female's bathroom. I don't care if you look like one, act like one, dress like one.
Do you believe that
I think people are going to use that. I think maybe, pedophiles will use that as an excuse to get into women's safe space. I just think it's going to be ugly. I don't think it's going to get better.
Do you believe your school board is committed to battling this, or are they going to adopt this stuff?
Well, they already have a gender-neutral bathroom.
Yeah.
So, and there's already one school district, I believe is Penn Ridge, that updated their bathroom policy. So I believe we'll follow suit. Maybe it'll take a little bit because of everything that's going on, but I think by the end of this year, most schools will have the same policy.
What are your feelings right now about the North Penn School District generally and your middle school daughter? And going forward, will she stay in the school district? Are you looking at alternatives?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. We're going to see how the rest of the year goes. She'll probably finish out this year. She is a student athlete, so that's very important to her. Next year, she will not be returning. And my elementary school student also will not be returning.
Are you looking at a different school district or something different altogether?
She will most likely be going to a private school, Catholic school, completely out of North Penn District.
Well, for what it's worth, not that you asked, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I commend it, and I'm grateful to you for making that decision on behalf of your kids, Miss Santiago. Thank you for your willingness to speak up and come on the show today to tell this story. I'm sorry about it. I really am very, very sorry, but I'm grateful that you've educated the rest of us. Thank you so much. Hey, Mike Lindell and MyPillow, you know the name. 20 years they've been singing the jingle on Fox News and on the radio, and it's no secret that Mike and the company have come under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of attack. Big box stores have tossed MyPillow from their stores. Even the online retailers now won't sell MyPillow products. And who does that hurt, really? I mean, yeah, I understand they don't like Mike's position on the election or whatever, but Mike employs hundreds of Americans, hundreds of Minnesotans who make great products. If you know the MyPillow products, I sleep on them every night. So does my dog, Dean. They're great products. And he wants to sell them to you at unbelievable prices, by the way, but they're backed with a 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee, and most importantly, again, they're made here in the United States. So, it's not something he's asking me to say. It's just something I'd like to remind you of, that a guy who has an opinion, who happens to own a very successful American company and employs a lot of Americans who make great American products that a lot of you have bought and owned or are looking to buy and own. I just want you to know that while he takes it on the chin a lot out there for having the positions he has, he wants to keep his employees busy. He wants to keep the company moving along. And so he's passing on huge, huge savings to you in what he's calling the $25 extravaganza. Getting the word out, I want to invite you to check out this $25 extravaganza today. 2 multi-pack MyPillows, just $25. MyPillow sandals, just $25. I'm looking at the list of these deals right now. 6-pack towel set, just $25. 6-pack of towels, $25. And the MyPillows with the new Giza fabric, just $25. And here's the thing, if you order any or all of this stuff, if you exceed $75 with your order, he ships it to you for free. So free shipping on anything $75 or over. And look, with all those deals and so many more at just $25 a piece, I think you'll be very, very pleased with not just the quality, but the price point and the free shipping. It's MyPillow.com. I hope you'll use the promo code ChrisPodcast. MyPillow.com, ChrisPodcast, to take advantage of all these savings. Get that free shipping over $75. Or call 800-932-5056. Great operators, American-based operators. You can call and say, hey, I'm with you. And hang in there, 800-932-5056. Don't forget the promo code ChrisPodcast. It lets them know you listen, which I appreciate, but more importantly, get you that deal. MyPillow.com or 800-932-5056. Promo code ChrisPodcast. So we turn now to another parent. Does not have students in this particular school, but did speak at this same school board meeting where Miss Santiago spoke. Yanni Lambros, we played a clip of him a little earlier today. I can only describe it as righteous anger, Mr. Lambros. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm sorry to talk to you under these circumstances, but look, I say to you on behalf of grateful men everywhere, a lot of us are wondering, a lot of women and girls are having to speak up about this. A lot of us have asked, where are the men? Thank you for being a man and standing up like a man at a school board meeting, sir.
No problem, sir. I'm just, in my mind, doing my job. It's what all men are supposed to do, protect women and children. At the end of the day, they have to come first. Common misconception, though, I'm actually not a parent as of yet. Me and my wife have been working on it. Just kind of had to say it to defend kids in the community. And I've had past experiences with the school board in the past.
Wow. Okay. Didn't know that. That makes you all the more impressive. You don't even have children in the district. You're just a citizen in the district.
Yes, sir.
Why did you feel the need to step up and go to the school board meeting as a citizen with no kids in the district?
It started actually a couple of years ago during the pandemic with the mitigation measures. I own a local business, a restaurant in Lansdale, Coffee Corner, and I had a lot of people reach out because I didn't enforce the policies. I was one of the very few in Pennsylvania who didn't push it on people at the time because I believe in freedom of choice. And fast forward till now, I helped back then speak out. And just as Alyssa said, the board has, from my experience, always been kind of cold towards parents. I've seen parents speak up against the board about their kids being harassed or bullied or sexually harassed, problems kind of all over the board. And they don't really do anything. They just say they'll follow up with an email. Nothing gets done month after month. So I started speaking out because I don't have to be afraid. They can't fire me. You want to try to shame me, fine. I'm a man of action, not words. I treat people with respect, and I live my life, through a set of values and morals. I'm not really worried about the consequences of them making up rumors about me. I'm just trying to do what's right and encourage others to stand up and speak out, because if no one does, this is just going to continue. We can all complain about it amongst ourselves, but if we do not take the proper action and say what we need to say, it's not going to change.
This doesn't particularly matter, and forgive the question, and if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. Okay, but I because I talk about this a lot on the show, my mind naturally goes here, and I'm just kind of curious, and I would have asked Miss Santiago about it, but opted to not. Do you look at this through a political lens? What we're living through right now, this particular story, others like it, is this political? Do you consider yourself a political person? Is there a political remedy to this?
I do believe there is. I wish there wasn't, because it's involving children and schooling. But unfortunately, yeah, I believe it is. I believe that the board is trying to hide the fact that this student who is the attacker is a biological male due to political reasons and their political agenda that they have been pushing.
Does that include the superintendent or just the board?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, the superintendent as well.
So you have no children.
I believe someone should resign over this because it's not something that politics is one thing, but these are children and it's the safety of the children. So at the end of the day, politics should never come first. And I believe the superintendent and the board in this situation and others in the past have put politics front and center.
You, I think you mentioned you intend to have children if you're able someday. You'd like to?
Yes, sir.
And does this give you pause to consider how you'll educate them once you do have children?
Absolutely. Another reason, my own selfish reason for being there too, is because me and my wife are working on having kids, and I see the mess. I'm out there to help parents. I speak to a lot of parents about this who are afraid of speaking out or can't because of their jobs. They're afraid of being threatened. So, I go out and I do it for them. And I want it to be fixed for all kids and for my future kids. I don't think that this is right. And I feel very bad for women and little girls, especially because from what I'm hearing, these policies, they just make girls very uncomfortable. There's no reason a biological man needs to be in the locker room changing with biological females. There's no reason they need to be in the same bathroom. It's uncalled for. Do
you think the community, the North Penn School District community, Do you think there will be an uprising? Will there be a change of the guard? Do you think people will challenge this school board in terms of elections? Or maybe it's, I don't know, are the politics overwhelmingly supportive of this sort of thing there? What's your read on it?
My personal take is the school board likes to manipulate language on how they word things and manipulate the general public into believing they're doing something good without letting people know the risk of certain policies, much like this one. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, we're inclusive, oh, we accept everyone. Okay, but put some thought into it. This attack could have been prevented. Little girls also shouldn't have to be afraid to use the bathroom in a school they're stuck in 7 to 8 hours a day because boys are going into it. You know what I mean? It's something that it shouldn't be happening. And I hope that this will wake people up because just like Alyssa said, she wasn't in meetings before. So a lot of parents just, they're living their life. They're going to work. They're paying the bills. They're taking care of their children like we all want to do. We just want to live peacefully in the community and live our life. But by us doing that and not paying enough attention to the politicians, to the school board, to the superintendent, they're sliding certain things under the rug and they're kind of just doing whatever they please.
Yanni, your shop, I believe you just said it was called the Lansdale Coffee Corner. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you mind sharing? Are you open today? Is that a all week long open coffee cafe or no?
Yes, sir. It's breakfast, lunch. We're closed on Wednesdays, but we're open every other day of the week. From 6 to 2.
Open today, right now.
Yep.
Well, I will just tell you that the Lansdale Coffee Corner everyone in your community ought to stop in today. And do you do gift cards or gift certificates?
Yeah, we recently changed our processor, so we're working on getting gift cards. So temporarily, not at the moment, but soon.
All right. Well, I would strongly advise everyone in this audience, if they get the chance to go to the Lansdale Coffee Corner and become a regular customer. If I lived in your community, I certainly would be. I hope everybody stops and purchases something from your menu today and every day, because you're an actual man, a real man standing up for his community. And that is a rare, rare thing these days, Yanni Lambros. We are so grateful for you, and I want to stay in touch. Thank you very, very much for what you've done here.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And like I said, I just hope that, in this situation, like you said, we need more men. No one man can do it themselves. So someone has to go first. I consider myself the one to go first in this situation, to call it out, say the truth. Other people should not be afraid. You have the right to speak the truth. You have the right to speak your mind. Facts are facts. We shouldn't have to hide them. So
thank you.
I just hope it encourages others to stand up.
God bless you, Yanni. Yanni Lambros in the North Penn School District, the Lansdale Coffee Corner. Drop in there and grab yourself a little breakfast or a little coffee this morning. Treat yourself, your friends, to the Lansdale Coffee Corner. That would be my regular coffee stop if I lived in the North Penn School District. I know that.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.